Good evening. I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. I'm very keen right now to talk politics. And Larry Kudlow, CNBC, and Kudlow Radio on the Weekend is here, along with our colleague Bill Whalen of the Hoover Institution, to talk politics because of the spectacular presentation by the Republican Party last week in Cleveland. 24 million people on the main stage's audience and 6 million on the undercard, making the Republican Party simply the story of the moment in August, in a non-election year, with the baseball season very much in a pennant race mode. However, we cannot get to the Republican Party immediately because of breaking news. I'm looking at AP. I'm also looking at McClatchy. And Mr. Whalen and Mr. Kudlow are very well informed that right now the news is so strange. This twist has gone through so many iterations over these last months. It's about Mrs. Clinton. It's about the email on Mrs. Clinton's private server. It's about questions about how that email has been handled, and the question of whether there is top secret information on the server, has been, whether emails there incorrectly have been handled outside of the U.S. government, not surrendered, whether aides to Mrs. Clinton and people who are not at the State Department have had access to this information. Larry, a very good evening to you. This is a surprising turn because right now, if I follow this McClatchy story from the Washington Bureau, Mrs. Clinton has now surrendered her server, and her lawyer, David Kendall, has surrendered the thumb drive that he's held these weeks. I can't assess this as politics, Larry. I can only assess this as a surprising blow to a woman who would be president. Good evening to you, Larry.
Well, good evening, John. The way I look at it is this. 24 million people plus watched the Republican debate. That was very interesting, very entertaining, and occasionally had some substance. But mostly it was really interesting and entertaining, okay? So that's one side. On the other side, the Democratic candidate just got busted by the FBI. That's the way I look at this. I have no idea the legalities here. All I know is when the FBI comes in and takes your server and takes all your internet paraphernalia and your own lawyer has to give it up, it can't be good, okay? It just can't be good. That's as much as I know. Bill Whalen is much smarter than I am and may have a deeper insight into this. All I'm saying is the GOP is looking pretty nifty right now. Mrs. Clinton, not.
Bill, welcome this evening. We were intending to analyze the Republican debate, but we have to deal with this. It's too overwhelming at this point, Bill. This is exactly what Mrs. Clinton has said would not happen since her press conference last winter. The server will remain private. I think that is an accurate quote, if not a very close paraphrase. And now that the Department of Justice and the FBI are in charge of this server, her road to the presidency, which has always been the straightest road of all candidates, looks to be troubled, Bill. Or am I anticipating too much? Should we count on the magic of the Clintons to escape this?
I don't think there's ever been a photo op that's been a good one that shows FBI agents walking out of the building carrying papers, documents, you name it. But, it's a funny thing in politics. You put the brightest minds of your party together behind a very bright lady that is Hillary Clinton, and they come up with just an absolutely rock-stupid position of, we're not going to give you our server, and you do this, there's only one or two outcomes of this. Either at some point they would either A, have to cough up the server, which they've done now, or B, they'd have to say the server was destroyed or disappeared or we can't find it, which would just absolutely stink. So she has managed now to create a story that's going to go on for months, if not into the entire next year of the campaign. But a word of caution here for Republicans. We now get our hands on the server. We now get to find out what those missing emails consisted of, and I suspect there are three things at play here. One, if you look at the documents which she did give to the State Department, there is a long gap, as I understand it, of documents in the summertime before the Benghazi attack, so maybe some of those emails start to appear. So now we find out where she was on Benghazi, so maybe that's one reason why she was stonewalling on this. Second thing I think you're going to probably find through emails that's come up here is her involvement in the rather kind of complicated world of the State Department and the Clinton Foundation and Bill Clinton's activities. But the third area, and this is the word of caution for Republicans, I suspect she also wants to safeguard certain things on her server, which have to do with her and her husband, comments she may have made, things about their personal life, and this is where Republicans have to be careful. Where do they go off the track in the Starr report? It was the sexual details. It was just, rubbing the president's nose and things, embarrassing him and humiliating him. I hope the Republicans are a little more careful in this investigation.
Larry?
Well, yeah, Bill makes a good point on that. It's just that, to me, the optics are so contrastingly bad for her. I mean, look, whether you like Donald Trump or you don't like Donald Trump, he is the center of political attention.
Yeah.
But the debate itself was a very interesting debate. And in fact, some of the polls, at least one poll that I'm looking at, I have no idea if these snap polls are any good or not, show a lot of movement inside the GOP. Guys like Scott Walker and Jeb Bush heading south, people like Carly Fiorina and Ted Cruz heading north, Trump at least holding his lead. You've got a lot going on. What are their policies going to be? Now the big discussion, I hope we get into this, is Donald Trump a growth guy? Is he a protectionist guy? Is he going to release, I talked a lot on CNBC this afternoon, is he going to release a 14-point plan on Friday? I mean, these are good things, not bad things. Is Chris Christie's entitlement program going to be acceptable or not? And, of course, what are we going to do about immigration? So, okay, those are things the country is interested in, right? Economy, taxes, deficits, entitlements, immigration. On the other hand, you've got, Dr. Gloom over there, Hillary Clinton, for all the things that Bill Whalen's talking about. Maybe I'm unordinary. When I see that the FBI is coming in to take stuff from you, I just assume that there's bad over there, okay? I don't even know anything. And I have no idea whether it's about Bill Clinton's bimbo eruptions or whether it's more serious classified Benghazi. It can't be good to be reading that Mrs. Clinton is being invaded by the FBI. It just can't be good.
We have this detail, and I want to turn to the Republicans immediately. So I just add this, because this is fresh news. It's just coming. You'll see it repeated all evening as we work into the details. We don't know the sources on this. We do believe that Congress has been informed, and this paragraph from McClatchy sets up what we'll learn in the next 24, 48 hours. The Inspector General for the intelligence community notified senior members of Congress that 2 of 4 classified emails discovered on the server Clinton maintained at her New York home contained material deemed to be in one of the highest security classifications, more sensitive than previously known. So we're looking at a new twist here about classified information in Chappaqua on a server that was outside the reach of the government's protective security zone. All right, leaving that, full stop, we'll turn to the Republicans. 24 million people. Bill, the fact of that 24 million, has it changed the party's understanding of what it's expected to speak to? Does this raise the game of the party, Bill?
Well, I think we have to understand of those 24 million people watching it, how many actually plan to vote in Republican primaries. I think 61 million people voted for Mitt Romney in 2012, and I believe something like 15 million people took part in the Republican primary selection process, so it's a much smaller universe playing here. But the fact is, Trump has drawn attention to the Republican field in ways Republicans would not have anticipated 6 months ago, so it couldn't be any simpler for the other Republican candidates. They have to step up their games right now. It's not enough to react to Trump, I think, in the time given, just simply, jump on the jet stream when he goes after Megyn Kelly or something like that. Republican candidates have to make a decision here, and they have to be the anti-Trump in this respect. And like Larry was getting to this earlier, Trump is not going to come out with 14-point economic plans. He gave a press conference today in Michigan and said pretty much exactly words to that. I'm not going to give detailed explanations to things. That's not me. He's going to mostly go by bluff and bravado and say, well, when the Chinese devalue their currency, I'm going to sit down and negotiate with them because Trump knows how to negotiate. And then he's going to reference the fact he got the old post office building in Washington, so he's a can-do kind of guy. So there's a void in there for a smart Republican candidate, and it has to be somebody who is statesmanlike and have policy chops and show that they've thought things out.
Yeah, that they really thought things through. That's a key point. I watched that press conference with great interest, and the press are starting to ask, why and how and where are you going to do this stuff. Besides China, one of the interesting things is Trump is going off against Mexico again. Right. All right. So he's saying he's going to build a wall. Mexico's going to pay for it. And some reporter says, well, why are they going to do that, or how are they going to do that? And Trump says, well, of course they're going to do that because something to the effect, they've been taking us to the cleaners. I don't know what that means. I don't know why Mexico has to pay for a wall. Mexico's our second leading export partner, John. They're a gigantic factor in our economy. We are a gigantic factor in their economy. By the way, there's been no net immigration for years because the Mexican economy has done better than ours on the whole. See, he's going to be challenged on his assertions. And back to Bill's point, the question is, which of the other candidates will make the challenge and will make an intelligent challenge with serious economic points? I am personally very interested in pro-growth tax reform versus protectionism. If Trump is going to be a protectionist and he's going to be the Smoot-Hawley of our time, that's very bad.
We'll speak.
On the other hand, we don't know what he's going to come out with because I've got documents from his camp that show he has some pro-growth elements too.
We'll speak of the other candidates when we come back. The news of Mrs. Clinton has dominated too much time here in our presentation of the Republican success last Thursday in Cleveland, anticipating another debate in the Reagan Library in September. Larry Kudlow of CNBC and Kudlow Radio, Bill Whalen of the Hoover Institution. I'm John Batchelor.